Hi there, this is Jen from Spokane Public Library, and welcome back to Ask an Emergency Preparedness Expert. In the following episode, we talk about food, the importance of preparing enough food for short term, for long term. Be sure to watch all the way to the end on this very important episode.
Okay, in this video, it is the second of two on food storage, of having your box, your apartment, your home that we live in stocked with food for the long term. And we're looking at this little quote. I love it. It's an ancient Hebrew proverb that take a lesson from the ants. They labor hard all summer gathering food for the winter. And that's how many of our ancestors and many of our relatives of the past, they wouldn't think of going into winter without their supply of food, especially farm and ranch people. This is the farmhouse my mom grew up in. They had no electricity. They had no water coming in, but they had food, and they canned food in glass, and they had some chickens outside and a cow too. But food was in that box. So we're going to look at some things that we can store that are long-term, and if we have a major crisis or an emergency where we can't get food, we're going to be fine. How much? Everybody asks me, how much food? There's a lot of answers to that question, but I will tell you this, nothing less than 3 months. Don't even think of anything less than 3 months. Now, that's a shock to people because the average is 3 days. But yet, when you do not have trucks coming in and they're not being supplied, you're going to have one hurting family in a few days. And so you want at least 3 months. And it's inexpensive. Food in this country at the time of this video is very, very inexpensive. And we'll talk about this. Storing food in 5-gallon food grade buckets, just what you see here, very inexpensive, would last weeks of food for your family. Now, storage of food should be food your family loves to eat. Don't store anything that people don't like. I mean, that's just a common sense. But believe it or not, people have done that. And that doesn't work. Food that provides a balance of nutrition. You want to have that complete protein and vitamins and minerals and starch and energy. So that is a concern that you need to consider in your storage. And food that has a long shelf life. We don't want anything spoiling. So we're going to explain how you can do that. First, store in food grade containers. These are containers that are made for food. The very best container is glass. Nothing can beat glass, but that's getting more difficult as time goes on. We find less products in glass, and so we're going to give you some other options. These are containers that are going to protect you from rodents, little mice or whatever, and insects that can get into your food and cause problems, and moisture. We do not want moisture getting into those dry foods, and oxygen, which we'll talk more about. So, buy food grade containers. Now, on these containers, there will be a number, maybe it'd be 1 or 4 or 3. The most common food grade container that you can purchase is going to be 2. It's going to be a little triangle, and it's going to be 2. And this is a hard, dense polyethylene material that is designed for food. That's what we're looking for here. Now, you can get easy access lids that are also this food grade material, especially if you're using the food that you have in your bucket on a weekly basis. And you are going to absorb the oxygen within that food. What oxygen does, and some of you understand this, it causes oxidation. It attaches to molecules and it takes them apart. That's what oxygen does. And it can do it to metal, and we have rust, but it does it to food, and it destroys our proteins and our vitamins and things. So we don't want any oxygen in there. So we can get these little packets, 5 for a bucket of food. When I do this, I have a couple on the bottom, one in the middle, and a couple on top. I just threw 5 in there to illustrate, and you can get these. The place I buy them is the Winco. Winco sells them, and there's other places I'm sure sell these little packets, 50 of these for under $10. That's a lot of buckets of 5, 10, 10 buckets there. Now another way of getting the oxygen out of your bucket is using dry ice. Dry ice, as you may know, is nothing but frozen carbon dioxide. Now, here's some oatmeal. Put a little oatmeal on the bottom. Put a little piece, the size of a walnut or less. It doesn't take very much because that's going to become gas, which is a huge amount of gas, much bigger than that bucket. We'll put a little on the bottom. I don't put that on the very bottom because it'll crack at 140 below or whatever that ice is. It will crack my plastic, so I just stick it right on the oatmeal, fill it up, and then I put the lid on, but I don't seal it because that gas is going to expand and I don't want to blow oatmeal all over my house. So I just set that on there for a few hours, maybe overnight, and then I just crank it shut and seal it. There is no air in there because CO2 is heavier than air. And then I label it, when I did this and that it's CO2 sealed. That is a great way to seal. Here's some popcorn. We're doing it with this popcorn and beans. Now here's a little trick. Put your recipes and your contents and any information about your food product in your bucket. Just a great little tip to follow, and I have done that. My wife and I have done that for a number of years. So we seal the container. We've got the moisture out. We have the oxygen out. The next big principle is keep it cool. Cool means slower movement of molecules, less activity, less oxidation, less of everything, increases the shelf life. Many times it can be if it's kept very cool. The rule of thumb, going back, the rule of thumb with temperature is every 10 degrees you drop it below room temperature, you double the shelf life. So if you drop it from 75 to 65, you double it. You double it again if you drop it from 65 to 55. And that was a number of studies have been done on temperature. So you want to keep things cool. The best food, and actually the least expensive food, is whole seeds. Just you buy the whole seed of the plant, has the longest shelf life. What are we talking about here? We're talking about rice, popcorn, lentils, beans. They're the whole seed. They've got a little capsule around them to protect that food. And so any of your grains, if they're whole grains, they can last for hundreds of years. And you've all heard the story of the pyramid, thousands of years, 3,000 years or something. And the rice was still good because it was kept cool and it was in that environment, in the whole grain. Beans can last years and years. So you don't have to worry about these deteriorating. Popcorn, you've got to have a bucket of popcorn. That is a comfort food. And if we went 2 or 3 months without being able to purchase, that is a lot of food, and it's filling, and kids love it. And it's all you need is vegetable oil and salt, and you've got a wonderful food. So those are the kind of things we're talking about. Not a lot of money, but just common sense. Lentils. My wife and I have several recipes that we use with lentils, and we actually have a lentil chili that we make. Buy your food in bulk and you save hundreds of dollars. Here's some different former students of mine that have sent me pictures of their food storage buckets. This was a neighbor. This neighbor, he said he bought the containers and all of the food in those containers for under $350. And that is over a 250,000 calories. We calculated it. I know it's more than a 250,000 calories, but conservative. I mean, we're talking weeks of food. And you want some other things, some seasoning, and you want some other things, some onions and some things to go with this. But how simple is that? How inexpensive this is. There's no reason you should not have food for at least 3 months. Now, here's a friend of mine. What he does is he just takes the label off the sack. Whatever the sack says, he just cuts it out and tapes it to the bucket. Very simple. I'm starting to do that now too. Also, you can buy freeze-dried foods in the can. And when they're freeze-dried, your shelf life usually is minimum 10 years, and that would be at 75 degrees. You can double that, but a lot of your freeze-dried is 20, 30 years at 75 degrees. And so you are going to supplement your seeds that you have, and you can find almost anything freeze-dried, literally anything. Ice cream. They freeze-dry ice cream. I said, are you kidding? And they said the kids love it. Now, they don't make ice cream. They just sprinkle it on their cereal and things, and they love the taste of freeze-dried ice cream. Now, normally, Walmart sells these various products. Here is freeze-dried onions. Here's tomato sauce powder. Here is, some various kinds of fruit. And here is beef and chicken. And some of these look like they're expensive, but they're really not when you consider how much is in those, and they're a wonderful taste. This is normal. Now, when the fear of COVID-19 hit our county, boom, it was gone. What's left here is some fruit. No, this is pancake mix, which you can get in all kinds of things. This is some kind of a fruit drink, and this is a cereal. And then they brought some other things into this. It was just gone. It disappeared. You're not going to do that. You're not going to wait till it disappears, because you're going to have it in your home. This is the Spokane Home Storage Center off of Argonne, South Argonne. And Friday and Saturdays, they're open during the day. They have all kinds of good prices, all kinds of canned products that you can purchase normally. So keep your foods cool so you lengthen that shelf life. Here is a single gal lives up on 5 Mile. She doesn't have a basement, and she doesn't have really a cool place in her house, but she put it in her crawl space. And she has her water down there. She has all her little supplies underneath the house, and that worked out great. Cool in your basement. Now, this is a neighbor friend of mine. This is what he has done. And there's a window, a little basement window up here. And he puts a tarp over this whole area. And that little cool window during the wintertime keeps all of this cool in his warm home, but his food is cool. So use your imagination how you can do this. You can keep things in your garage during the wintertime. Only a few things in life are really important. And I'm going on my 8th decade of life, and it's taken me a while to kind of just, get things in perspective. But there's only 2 things. One is family, obviously, and people, and the relationship we have with people. But the other is food. And this little picture my mom put in a scrapbook, and the dog got a hold of it and ripped it and tore it. And there's a grandma's praying hands right here, and the parents are over here. Now, this family doesn't have much, but they've got each other, and they've got food to eat. Here's the family. 1930s, during the Depression, probably Dust Bowl folks, and it bonds. I'd rather be that family than to live up on a fancy place on a hill and have dysfunction. So when you get your priorities straight with your survival and you understand the principles of coming together. I wish I had time to tell you stories of families that in crisis came together because they could do this and share what you have with others. This person actually totally separated and says, I will starve before I ever open those for myself. That is to help the people around me, that widow that lives down the street, that person that hasn't been able. This is in crisis, we come together. So begin your storage this week. You put this off, you will not do this. If you procrastinate on this, I know I've been doing this for years, and I talk to people later. If you don't get started today or tomorrow, hey, just scratch it. Don't watch any more videos because you're just going to be hurting. That's what's going to happen. So a review, have a full pantry of foods that you like. Put food in 5-gallon buckets, and you want the dry seeds, and you want to protect them from oxygen and moisture. Have number 10 cans of freeze-dried food, and keep it all cool. And you are going to have a smile on your face, and your family's going to come together, and a major event can be an awesome time because of food. Now, for more information, go to our website. Just click on the topic food, and a lot more information there for you.